The only people who don't want to disclose the truth are people with something to hide.
We talk about people who have stood through the fight, and this is one of them. His name is Jack Cashill, and Jack has been doing radio shows, kind enough to do radio shows with us, searching for who, in fact, is Barack Obama for at least a decade. And he has written about the book Dreams from My Father. He's written about so many different things. And we find out that Barack Obama's aunt, Aunt Zaitudi, has died. Hey, Jack, good morning, and as always, welcome back to Denver.
Yeah, we're still in mourning here about Aunt Zaitudi.
Yeah,
And
I mean, I don't want to be flip, but, you know, and you're the one, somebody made a really wise guy remark on one of the sites. Remember, he said, if you ever read Bill Harris's book, Dreams of My Father, you know that Barack Obama's aunt, Zaituni, he talked about knowing her, but then he claimed he didn't know her. And that's a good place to begin. Fair enough?
yeah, but who's even more interesting than Zaituni is, and this is the guy where the case is really fascinating. He's had two illegal,
Uncle Omar.
an aunt and an uncle living in the United States.
Oh, Uncle Omar, right?
Yeah, actually, that's what he was known as in Dreams from My Father. He called him Omar, but in real life, his name was Onyango Obama.
Yes.
I'll just call him Onyango going forward.
Yes.
He's the more fascinating guy because he was the second illegal alien in the family to get a green card, and there's a more interesting story buried here than just likely political favoritism shown these, basic law-breaking Obama kin. See, because Onyango claimed under oath that Obama lived with him for 3 weeks at his Cambridge
I was talking
apartment.
about that. He said he stayed
when he
with him.
attended Harvard Law School.
Yeah, right.
And a friend of his verified the claim.
Right.
Now, but here's the kick, Peter. In August 2011, when Onyango first made the news for a DUI,
Was it Dewey?
and he had yet to testify under oath,
Yeah.
the White House claimed that Barack had never met the man.
Yeah.
And, the reason for denial in August 2011 is pretty obvious. He's running for re-election.
Yes.
And he wants to acknowledge an uncle been in the country legally for 50 years,
Yeah.
who's just now arrested on DUI.
Yeah.
And his first words to the cop were, I think I'll call the White House.
Yeah, I'm going to call him. I mean, and he worked in a liquor store. I think Uncle Omar was and he blew up because he was hitting the product a little bit too hard.
Right. I can imagine if that were Mitt Romney's uncle.
Oh my God. George Bush.
But then it gets even stranger. The argument given at the time was that Obama had little contact with the family of his father who abandoned him.
Yeah.
But once again, they're making that stuff up because in Dreams,
yeah.
Right, he goes to, when he talks in Dreams, he goes to meet his father's family in the summer before he starts Harvard, just before he starts Harvard.
Walking around the
and
lake.
they talk about an Uncle Omar in Boston,
Yeah.
whose age and background perfectly match Onyango's.
That's who it is.
And so they said, when you go to Boston, you got to look up Uncle Omar. Sure, got to look Uncle Omar. And he's, this guy was keen on his family, right?
Yeah.
And then he gets to Boston, and we're supposed to believe that he doesn't even look up Uncle Omar. He never talks to him.
Right.
And but here's what happens, though, Peter, as you know, is that when you start lying, one lie begets another lie, and you got to continue to tell lies to make up for the lies. So after Onyango goes public in December 2013, now with his court testimony, White House spokesman Jay Carney, now he concedes that Obama had indeed stayed with his uncle when he arrived in Boston. Now, having made that confession, he's forced to create a cover story to account for the past denials. And the one he rolled out must have made even the folks at MSNBC queasy. He claims that when asked about the relationship in 2011, here's what the White House staff did. They reviewed the documentary record, including Dreams, and concluded that the president had never met his uncle never bothered to ask him whether he had ever met his uncle before going public and denying it. And we're supposed to believe that. That's the appalling thing about all this.
What's so brilliant is, and Jack Cashill is with us, and Barack Obama's Aunt Zaitudi has died. And in and of itself, it's sad, but she mystically got, and I think Uncle Omar got asylum as well. And
they both did.
Yeah, they both got asylum. And
in fact, she not only got asylum, but she got public housing.
Yeah.
And
remember, she pitched a bitch because she got asylum, and then she appeared and she said she complained that her famous nephew never invited them to the White House to family gatherings, and and the snub and apparent disregard, they call themselves the brother in the hut. I mean, I'm not making this up. Strange actions, indeed. I mean, remember, the president is a good-hearted, fine, wonderful young man who would give the shirt off his back to anyone. Well, then there's Uncle Omar, who said, well, yeah, he's going to Harvard. He came and lived with me. And they all denied it. They said, no, that didn't happen. But Aunt Zaitudi, who he denied knowing, but as you've taken that book apart, I guess maybe Bill Ayers met her because he said he met her. He knew his aunt. He knew her, but he didn't know her. I mean, what do we do?
I mean,
yeah.
The thing is, they lie, as casually as you and I, butter our bread in the morning, and so you get bewildered by them.
Yeah.
And then there's the other case of, and this is it shows. I think it speaks to who the guy is. His real half brother,
Malek,
Mark Nisanjo, who's actually a good guy.
Yeah. Yeah. Is he the guy that's in China?
Yeah.
All right.
And Obama talks at length about meeting him in Dreams from My Father in a couple of days, Then when he's in China, this is, I think he's in 2009, and by the way, in their conversation, and Nisanjo said this earlier, is that Nisanjo grew up with Obama Sr., and he hated him.
Oh, yeah, bad
guy.
He
was a brute and a bully. It's his father, but, he talked about the abuse that he ministered, and then when his mother, who is a white Jewish woman, also from Boston, dumps him. Yeah. And he marries a guy named Nisanjo, who's not a Kenyan, but some other African. And, Mark takes the stepfather's name and identifies himself going forward, not with his black side, but with his white side.
Yeah.
And he's Jewish.
Yeah.
So when Obama meets him, and he's, by the way, very well-spoken. He went to Stanford. He's really
smart guy.
Seems like a straight shooting, sincere guy. He's got a Chinese wife. Obama's in China, and CNN interviews him. And they said, tell us about Mark Nisanjo. He goes, I never met him until like a year or two ago.
Wow.
Well, we have several long passages in Dreams about how they met and talked and everything else. And the thing is, Nisanjo verifies that. Yes, he did. But for whatever reason, Obama felt obliged to disown Nisanjo. And then you see this video that's just surfaced a few weeks ago. I don't know if you saw this, Peter, where it's the first meeting in the United States of Nisanjo and Obama.
No, I haven't seen it.
It just popped up. I don't know where it came from.
We'll get it and put it up on our website for the audience for tomorrow morning. We'll talk when the show's over.
This occurred on the campaign trail, I think in 2008. Nisanjo just happened to be in Austin, Texas, when Obama was there. And he comes back and just to reintroduce himself. And Obama just blows him off right on camera, He just kind of pats him on the back and smiles and says, I'm busy, walks out.
Wow.
Yeah. Who knows?
These guys are, let's try and recap some of this. Again, no one better than Jack Cashill. And we spoke with Jerry about this early this morning. And I'm going to push this story. Now, here's one of my predictions or one of my questions. There's this thing, and you've been around the press infinitely better than I have. But I always called it milestones, that at the end of a newscast, we announced the passing of, there'd be some great scientist or one of the members of the NBC family or, some legendary ball player or, you've got a list of things. Well, you would think that if it was Bill Clinton's aunt or, his Roger Clinton or, that sicko Roger Clinton, any of these people, there would be a mention of it. Brian Williams would say, it was sad news tonight. Roger Clinton is gone, that kind of a thing.
Right.
What's our bet, Jack, that nobody in big media mentions the passing of Aunt Zaitudi?
Well, I don't think it'll be. I don't think we'll lower the flags the half-mast like we did for Whitney Houston.
Well, yeah, I was going to say, Whitney Houston got half. What I'm asking you is, do you think Brian Williams will mention the passing of Aunt Zaitudi?
No, and she's been in the news for the very fact that she's flouted our immigration laws.
Yeah.
I mean, she's a test case of just how weak and how subjective those laws can be when the people in the White House aren't enforcing them or enforcing them as they choose to enforce them.
Now, in his... I'm sorry, go ahead. I apologize.
Yeah. No, it's right. It's as if it's Billy Carter died or Roger Clinton died. You know what I mean?
Of course.
Yeah.
I mean, Aunt Zaitudi, because, I had a wonderful experience with Roger Clinton, and I also had a nice experience with Billy Carter. But the point was Aunt Zaitudi, and the president called her Aunt Zaitudi in his book, did he not?
I don't recall.
Okay, because I thought in one of his books he had called Aunt Zaituni about her, and then now he doesn't. Then he doesn't know her. But then she even came out and said, "Look," and I think I'm looking at. I went back and we have great internet guys here. It was in 2009 when she appears in the Boston Globe.
Right.
And in 2009, in Boston Globe, Aunt Zaituni claiming her famous nephew never invited her to family gatherings. No, I'm not making. I'm reading it to you. And that snub and apparent disregard for the guy they called the brother in the hut in Kenya. And remember, this is a good-natured, kind, decent, truth-telling young man. And so from the Boston Globe, again, thank you, Obama's aunt, Aunt Zaituni Onyango, won asylum in 2010 after living illegally in Boston, died Monday night. So it did appear in the Boston Globe. Onyango is 61 years of old, heavy smoker, breast cancer and respiratory problems, and died in her sleep. The White House since then has had no comments on Onyango passing. This is not from the Boston Globe. This is from another outfit. This is an internet site.
Yeah.
Native of Kenya, moved to Southie in 2000. She was the sister of his father, and then Uncle Omar. But I love Uncle Omar even more than that because Uncle Omar said, "Hey, why would he deny living with Uncle Omar?"
You know, I would say
Why, Jack? Did we lose you? Did we lose this call? You want to call me back? Let's try a call back. I think we just lost him. This is beauty. This stuff's great. And, of course, we haven't even begun to talk about the half-brother, his best man at his wedding, Malik, who shows up wearing these Death to Israel clothes and stuff. And these people, all right, okay, see what he's going to do here. All right, we'll go right back. Jack Cashill is with us. Somehow it's probably on our end, we dropped a call. We're talking about the passing of Aunt Zaituni. She's dead at 61 years of age. She's Barack Obama's, if Barack Sr. is what do they dub him? The other Barack. If he is really the biological father, and that coin's in the air, but this is his sister and his other brother Omar, and they're all Southies, man. They're living in South Boston, and she has passed away. And then, the other brother is Malik or Malik. He's an adventurer, and he doesn't exist. I mean, remember every president, Nixon had a crazy brother, Lyndon Johnson had a crazy brother, Reagan's brother Jack. Every president has a brother that is very. I think it was Donald Nixon, and then it was Sam Houston.
George has Jeb.
Yeah. And they had Neil. They had Neil.
Right, I know.
I knew Neil. Then they had George has Jeb. That's great. I love it. And then that's even better. And then it was Nixon's brother Donald, and then Houston and Lyndon Johnson's brother I think was named Sam Houston Johnson, and they were all nuts. And Billy Carter, of course.
Billy Carter, of course, and Roger Clinton.
Yeah, right. So having said all that stuff, why wouldn't the press pick up on Malik or Malik, given what they've done in the past?
Well, they've obviously steered clear of even the obvious, even the most conspicuous family issues in regard to Obama. I mean, they could have had they would have had a field day if that had been George Bush's mother-in-law who was raising hell in China.
Oh yeah.
Even on the American side. So it's it is he's what he's done from the beginning, Peter, is to use his family and exploit his family in any which way he possibly could to make the case that he wants. I would say that his most grotesque exploitation of his family was the tale of his mother dying without health insurance, or fighting with the insurance companies every day to get her, coverage when in fact she had great coverage from
Indeed.
Yeah, Cigna, and they were, well covered, and there was no issue.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, I remember that. But you know what? Again, you would expect the New York Times to do that story. Not a chance. Not a chance in hell.
What was interesting, when you go back and look at what the New York Times did in October of 2007, when Obama was still a pretty considerable underdog, when Hillary Clinton was as inevitable then as she is today, right? Which means not inevitable at all. But the New York Times wanted to write a story on Obama's New York years, which makes sense. And then they wrote this paragraph, I'm paraphrasing, but I'm close. It says, President Obama refused to give us the names of any of his friends, relatives, people he lived, places he lived, grades, courses, blah, 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 anything else. And then they just moved on like it was no
never
big deal.
mind. Yeah, never mind.
Yeah. I'm sorry. This is a guy who's running. This is an underdog. They want to write a puff piece on him, and he's evading them. That should have been red flags all over the place at the Times Bureau, but it obviously wasn't.
I'm at a hard break. Can I hold you, Jack, and just do a quick one and come right back to you? Jack Cascio is with us, and again, the story turns down. Aunt Zaitudi is dead, and again, it opens up all these cans of worms. You got a president of the United States, and I got to tell you what, you don't got a clue who he is. We're right back. It's been part of the Who is Barack Obama team that has existed in this country for a decade that nobody knows who they are. But anybody who read Obama and Bill Harris's book, as Jack has pointed out, Dreams of My Father, knows that Obama's aunt, Zaitudi, was in the U.S. someplace, and he met her, and he claimed he didn't know her, and it's just so crazy. But so she has passed away. So Jack is just doing an excellent job about her and her brother. And then this brother Malik and Malik, and I was saying to the audience, and you're so good at this, where is he now? He was the best man when Barack Obama marries the missus and Michelle Robinson. And there's these great pictures, and he's in all an African garb with the little hat on and everything, and they're all happy as larks.
Yeah, in fact, he, if I'm not mistaken, if I remember this right, he changes his name, and that's maybe, he's a guy, you're right, we don't hear much about him.
No.
And I'm not exactly sure why that is, because he's, he was the best man,
Well, yeah.
I mean, you'd think that he would have stayed somewhat in the foreground, but...
Well, he creates the Barack Hussein Obama Foundation in Maryland, and he's got it going for 2 years without any tax exemption, and then suddenly on a Sunday afternoon, he's granted it. This is by the same woman who is now banging on all the Tea Party people. She decides to give him tax exemption, and then he shows up in this crazy picture where he is in, I think he's in Qatar, I forget where he is, but he is wearing one of these Death to Israel suits. Remember we saw all of that? Did you remember seeing those pictures?
Yes,
yeah,
right.
And he's standing, he's got his arms around guys who are clearly PLO guys and jihadis, and he's wearing that, and it says something, I forget what it says on the robes, but it's like from the river to the sea or something like that, and we're taking it back or something, and it's all this really crazy anti-Israel stuff. And then some of the Barack, and I'm working without notes here, but some of the Barack Hussein Obama Foundation money, they were building mosques with it. Remember all that kind of stuff?
Yeah. Yep.
And it was being funded by these Hollywood progressives, and these New York libs were giving him money, and they were getting tax exemptions. And God only knew. I mean, the people even thought they were building madrasas. And I can't say that because I don't know it, but it was being assumed, and that, so he's off the radar screen too, right?
Right. Yeah. He's disappeared. I don't know where he went, but he's because he's like you say, he was the deal then. He was the best guy and all that.
They sold the African Connection. That's what it's been dubbed, the African Connection. And that's when the unlikely story of the goat herd and the farm girl, right?
Right. Yes.
Oh, I'm serious.
Dorothy.
Yeah, Dorothy from Kansas. I told you the greatest line was that guy said, he told me, because he was an African kid, and he said, being a goat herd in Africa, he said, that's like being a paper boy in America. He said,
right.
He said, everybody's a goat herd.
Everyone goes. He was the most prosperous guy in the village. When he was, he had his picture on the cover of Dreams from My Father in Western garb.
Yeah, sure. Yeah.
And this would have been, 90 years ago.
Sure. No, he was. He had a couple wives. He was Islamic, and he was rolling hard. So
right. And, by the way, Obama also lied about his grandfather, who he said was arrested for his in prison for his aid to the Mau Mau's, and that was all made up too.
He was like an aide de camp to the Brits or something.
Yeah.
Yeah, he was.
Yeah, right.
They worked for the British Army. Yeah, no, I mean.
Yeah, he was a cook.
Yeah,
Right, yeah.
exactly. Yeah. They, you know,
Or a collaborator, as we might say, or,
yeah, of
or like an
course.
FBI, like a rat for the FBI.
Isn't that good? How good's that? You know, and like they come out and they go, well, he was making a coke deal, and we flipped him, and now he's denying it. And what's cool is like people that would actually say that the reason the story dropped on the Reverend Al Sharpton was because he had been doing so much good that they had to stop him. I read all the blogs, and I'm thinking, no, they caught Reverend Al making a coke deal, didn't they?
I think they did. I'm not sure exactly, but the fact is that, and when they interviewed people at his convention, they're all like, "Oh, there's more instances of the media conspiring against, us." Yeah,
against Reverend Al or against black people, and I'm going,
right.
The guy was a rat, and you know, I'll tell you, if he ratted out Vincent the Chin Gigante, which everybody thinks he did, there's a great story in one of those Nick Pileggi books about some guy that mugs the Chin's mother. I mean, this is a great story. And the guy's in, like, Mulberry Street, and he mugs the Chin's mother. He doesn't know it's the Chin's mother, and he mugs her. And he realizes he's mugged the Chin's mother. So he goes to...
That's a bad thing. That's like running over John Gotti's kids. You know?
Oh, yeah, and he goes to the police station to turn himself in. The cops told him no. They wouldn't take him. And they never saw him again. You know, and then but he mugged. Now, you imagine Reverend Al ratted out Vincent the Chin Gigante?
That's a dangerous business.
Oh,
you know?
Man. Reverend Al. You know he's a bad guy, but, you know, now he's a rat.
You know, right. And in certain worlds, you know, when, you know, the same people who sit on their hands when they're giving awards to people like Eli Kazan, you know.
Oh, Kazan, when
the
Kazan
director,
they sat
because
there.
he talked,
yeah,
right?
He went to UAC. He talked at UAC, and even years later, these guys like Johnny Depp, who knew nothing about it, and I love Johnny Depp as an actor, but they wouldn't applaud when Kazan gets the Academy Award because he ratted, you know, because he talked. They said,
and these are the same people who leaped to their feet when Roman Polanski was given one a few years earlier.
Child molester. That's right. Hey.
Yeah.
But
a child rapist.
Yeah,
you know.
Indeed. And then like one more, you know, Reverend Al's around people, and there's a thing from the street that said, "Snitches get stitches." I've heard it said many times by many people, regardless of skin color, who say snitches get stitches.
Yeah.
And Reverend Al's a snitch.
But not if you're Reverend Al, because you get exempt from everything. You can call, you know, you can use derogatory terms against Jews and homosexuals, and you know, you can snitch on the
Tawana Brawley.
You can make stuff up. You can. It's like it's like he has this. Speaking of Teflon, I mean, total immunity to any consequence.
So goes the White House. Here's what we're going to do. I'm at the end of the trail. The story, I'm sure, will turn again. Hopefully we talk with you tomorrow, Jack. Thanks for doing this, because we just picked up the phone and called, and God bless you, brother, man. Thank you so much.
The only people who don't want to disclose the truth are people with something to hide.